Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to this special City Council meeting, Monday, January 22nd, 2024. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Okay. All right, so we are here. Councilman Shirley, are you here?
Yes, I am. Good.
Okay.
Everyone hear that?
All right. So we have everyone here and accounted for. Well, in a technological way. There we go. Okay. So a new item of business first is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance repealing Ordinance 585 as it exhibits and canceling the related contract. This is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance to repeal Ordinance 585. The purpose of this ordinance is to repeal Ordinance 585 in its entirety to include its exhibits. If passed at second reading, this ordinance would also cancel the contract for the exchange of property between the City of TEK and TEK Marina Limited that is related to Ordinance 585. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the introduction and first reading of the ordinance repealing Ordinance 585, its exhibits, and authorize the city manager to cancel the contract for the exchange of property dated November 20th, 2023, between the City of TEK and TEK Marina Ltd.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Any further discussion?
I'll jump on real quick. I know there was a lot of concerns about this agreement, and we heard those concerns. We took action, and we just want to, make sure everyone's aware that why we're doing this. Listen, we want to listen to the people. We hear your feedback. We hear your concerns, and I thank Carmen and Brian here, new members of council, and that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
Just a little bit more discussion. We did hear you, and we understand exactly what's going on. And ultimately, the decision came down to, was this in the best interest of the majority of TKK? And the answer is no, which is why we're looking to repeal this. So we heard you guys.
I don't have any further comments. I totally agree with all of that.
Okay. Then I'll call into the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. You got him? Okay. All right. Okay. Next item of business is an introduction and first reading of an amendment to the zoning code, Ordinance 77, as it relates to the Marina Overlay District. This introduction, first reading of an amendment to the zoning code, Ordinance 77, as relates to the Marina Overlay District, Article 20, was tabled at our last meeting. This item is being revisited to remove a hotel as a conditional use. Based off public feedback at January 16th public hearing, before any rezoning is considered for a restaurant or yacht club within the Marina Overlay District, a master plan and traffic impact study must be submitted to council prior to consideration. Also, any new restaurant or yacht club must have access to a major thoroughfare. At the direction of council, the Planning Commission will be looking into this and other potential updates to the Marina Overlay District once this amendment has been considered. Do I have a motion?
May I ask a question before the motion, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor? Charlie, I believe since Carmen made the motion to table, she has to make the motion.
That is correct.
Okay.
I'm going to ask for a little bit of assistance. Do I just make a motion to untable or bring back to the table?
She's made that motion.
No, you just make a motion on the ordinance, on the amendment that's on the floor.
Okay, I make a motion to bring forward the amendment as read by Mayor Gray for vote. What? Okay. I make a motion to approve the introduction of the first reading of an amendment to the zoning of Ordinance 77 as it relates to the Marina Overlay District and remove hotel as a conditional use within the district.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
I'll jump in again. This was, something that I asked for the Planning Commission a few months ago when the first discussion at planning was a discussion to, I believe it was, look at the Marina Overlay District, change the hotel from 65 to 100 rooms, not an action item, but a discussion. And obviously, we heard the residents that a hotel in general is out, even though, prior to that, I personally, willing to admit, I didn't know the Marina Overlay District included a 65-room hotel. And I have a feeling that a majority of residents didn't know either. And so, based on the feedback and the concerns, we are taking this action now and see if it passes.
One of the concerns that came up about having tabled it and then bringing it back during a special session is what happens to the rest of the overlay. And we've said it, but I'd like to reiterate that the overlay as a whole is going to be considered with public input. It's going to be taken back by the Planning Commission to be reviewed in its entirety. The purpose of this is to have everyone take a breath on the fact that the hotel is no longer a conversation. It is no longer part of the overlay, and anything that went with the hotel is completely out. We did redline a couple of items and added them to the restaurant and to the yacht option because it was presented as additional safety net on what might be built there. So for all of you that may have a question about why we're separating that, it is so that we can get that completely out and then step back and review that overlay in its entirety.
So I have a comment for this. Folks, the city of TGK has been blessed. We have come so far in such little time. A couple years back, we were broke. We did not have any money, and we were trying to get whoever could come to help us and aid us in growing this city to help us grow the city. Fortunately, at this time, we do not have that problem. The leadership in years past has provided a way, a path forward to where we are a prosperous city. So things like this are going to come up from time to time. We've got ordinances that are on the books that are old ordinances that we're going to have to look at, and we're going to have to adjust them. They will come up. We appreciate everyone's input. We appreciate your time, your effort, your emails, and your conversation. But rest assured that council will make the correct decisions as it goes forward to amend any ordinances, any kind of zoning that we have that will be beneficial and valuable to our community. So, any further discussion? All right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. Okay. We have some new business, discussion and consideration of an updated agreement with the USDA, Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services and Wildlife Services. At the December 18th council meeting, council unanimously voted to enter into an agreement with the USDA to cull 80 deer. Since then, SCDNR has approved the city's request to cull an additional 80 deer this season. As a result of their approval, the agreement must be updated to reflect the total cost for 160 deer. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, member.
I'd like to have some discussion before we go off and do that.
Well, we need a
We
motion
gotta do a
first.
motion.
Oh, okay. one to you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to make a motion to approve the updated agreement with USDA Animal and Plant Health Inspection Services, Wildlife Services, and authorize the city manager to proceed in executing all necessary documents.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so
I
now.
second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Open for discussion?
Open for discussion. So we didn't get into this situation overnight. I completely respect previous council's decision to cull 80 deer. That was a long, thought-out decision process with multiple agencies and groups that everyone worked with. It wasn't an easy decision, and I respect that, and we're moving forward with that. In my opinion, to cull 80 deer is not going to really move the needle in order to try and change the amount of deer that we have in our community. $47,000 to do that is a little rough. In order to approve the additional 80, that's pushing the numbers up to 94,000, pushing 100,000 just to cull deer. I don't feel that is fiscally responsible for the residents of TGK and all of our taxpayers. So at this time, I'd like to step back and not cull any more deer. We already have 80 on the table. I would like not to cull any more deer.
Okay.
I'd like to continue to work on a long-term solution so we can implement a deer management program in our community to administer some kind of birth control. I believe we have to tranquilize, administer the birth control, and then the other missing component is we have to tag our deer. We can't just go off and try and implement a darting program and just dart deer randomly. We need to have a tagging program in order to do that. So I believe that this would be a better option for the deer and our community. So I wanted to go off and say that. The last thing that I like to say is I don't want the citizens to feel like we're dismissive or we're rude to all the residents in regards to this situation. We respect and we empathize with exactly what's going on. A decision's been made. We're going to move forward with that. Not a huge fan about that, but I'd like to stop that. The silver lining is the deer that are going to be culled, the meat is going to be processed, and it's going to be sent to food banks and to people in the area that are in need. So there's a little silver lining there, but I won't be voting for this.
Further discussion?
I think that the decision to make to do the 80 deer was long time. It took a long time. There was a lot of process that was put into place and a lot of thought and a lot of angst in making that decision. What we've heard over and over is that 80 deer will not make a difference. I think that the fact that the ask for the additional 80 was not something that was unexpected. It was something that was thought about and talked about before it happened. I'm not a hunter. I understand that there's emotion behind the decision to do this. I understand that there are incredible points of view and values that we hold fast. However, I feel that in order for this to be effective in the short term and for us to consider a viable solution long term, whatever that solution is when it comes to birth control, there needs to be less numbers that we're going to have to deal with in the future. That is going to impact us as a fiscally responsible decision in how many we have to dart, how many we have to tag, and how many deer are going to be born between now and the time that we even start to implement that type of program. I am a huge believer on that long-term effect and that long-term management, and I am going to vote yes for the additional 80 because I do believe that we need to get in front of those numbers in order to get to a manageable place.
I'll jump in real quickly, Mr. Mayor. Echoing what Mayor Pro Tem Miller said, the initial request from the city was, I believe, 300 deer from DNR to call. They came back and approved 80. And obviously, we started moving forward, looking at that as an option while also trying to consider PZP or other alternatives. And we also put in an appeal to DNR for an additional 80. So there's been a lot of, I say this because there's been a lot of questions. People are surprised, like, what do you mean there's another 80? So, I mean, we talked about it at previous council meetings where we appealed to DNR to get it to 160, and that meeting was just last week. So we didn't know how they were going to vote, if they would approve it or not. And so they did approve it last Thursday, I believe it was. And so that's why we're doing this today, to call the 160. And I agree with Carmen in that an alternative with birth control, or I guess sterilization with surgery, that's something that can be looked at long-term. But only thing that's going to make a reduction immediately is the culling. And so I do not want to get into a annual culling program for, eternity. But I believe knocking the herd down by 160 and exploring these other options long-term is the best situation by combining both approaches. So, but I want to give you the background on that, so that's all I got to say.
Councilman Shirley, do you have anything to add?
Hey, I appreciate it. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So, big respect for Councilman Carter and in his position on this. I do agree with Carmen and Tom that this is the best path forward for us immediately, and for us to continue to pursue other options long-term with birth control. Certainly not opposed to that. I like that idea. I am very concerned about the cost of that program going forward and the feasibility, so I think we have some research to continue, but we do need to knock that numbers down significantly and do it quickly. So I'm going to vote yes to move forward with the additional number.
Okay. With that, I will call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Let's show Councilman Carter was a nay. All the rest were yeas. Okay. And with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.